Hello, everyone. I'm Clay Jenkinson with this podcast introduction this week. I met these two extraordinary Brits, Nat, a woman, Nat Odgers, and Mikey Lear, a man, partners, a couple. I met them at Fort Union up near Williston, North Dakota. They were floating down the Missouri River from Three Forks in southwestern Montana. They didn't really know much about Lewis and Clark. They're British teachers at Brighton in England, and they got this notion that they were going to float some giant American river, and they chose the Missouri, Mississippi, and they're heading all the way to New Orleans. They're now just north of Pierre, South Dakota, in the middle of Lake Oahe, which is a giant reservoir on the Missouri, one of the 6 main stem reservoirs between Fort Peck, Montana, and the bottom of South Dakota. They're really a lively, lovely, funny, quintessentially British couple. He's quite a bit older than she is. They bought a canoe in Montana, and they've been floating ever since. They've had good adventures, but only overturned the canoe once, and that was just 2 days out. They both are weathered by this extraordinary story, writing a blog. Amazing. I just loved meeting them, and I said I wanted to interview them 3 times, once soon, and that's today. So now they've gone from Three Forks all the way across Montana and through North Dakota. They're in north central Montana, South Dakota at the moment. I wanted to interview them a second time when they reached the mouth of the Missouri at St. Charles, St. Louis. And then I want to interview them a third time if they get to New Orleans sometime in the spring. So they're in it. They're in it to win it. And they're great fun. Well, they're going to send photos that we'll post. I'm going to write about them. I'm trying to convince them to read more Lewis and Clark, but they seem pretty immune to all of that, and that's just fine. That makes them innocents abroad. Anyway, exciting. They are temporarily stopped because of high winds on this reservoir in South Dakota at a resort on the east side, and they are off for pizza and beer tonight to break up their normal diet of rice and beans and so on. And we had just a really lovely conversation. So I hope you enjoy it. This is a great moment of serendipity. I was at Fort Union. I was on my way to my second Missouri River canoe trip of the summer. I stopped at Fort Union to take some photographs, and this very beautiful woman came around the corner, and her very handsome man, and they introduced themselves, and their British accents got me immediately, and off we went. And so I think you're going to really like this. Contribute to Listening to America if you can. Join our friends group, join our book club. This is the sort of work we're doing, and it just makes me very happy to have had this extraordinary encounter, serendipitous, with these 2 amazing citizens. So let's go to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Listening to America. I have the great joy of welcoming to this podcast Mikey Lear and Nat Odgers of Brighton in England, school teachers, who are retracing, well, they're not exactly retracing the Lewis and Clark expedition, but they have come to the United States, purchased a canoe, and they're floating from Three Forks to New Orleans. And at the moment, you are in South Dakota, about 50 miles from Pierre, Oahe Dam. So you are at a resort or some sort of a motel on Great Lake Oahe, which is one of the principal reservoirs of the Missouri River. Is that all correct so far?
That's all right.
All right. So when I met you, I was innocently walking around at Fort Union a few weeks ago, taking some photographs. It's hard to photograph that confluence of the mighty Yellowstone and the Missouri. And suddenly I saw the 2 of you, and we struck up a conversation, and I was really surprised, even flabbergasted, that you would take on this immense journey. And then I learned that you weren't particularly doing it to follow Lewis and Clark. That's sort of in the picture too, but that's not why you were doing it. So why would a couple of school teachers in the heart of their careers in Britain come to Bozeman, Montana, and buy a vessel and try to float the Missouri?
That's a great question. I think mainly it's for adventure. We wanted an adventure. We thought that it was a good adventure to have. Mikey has had the idea for a while.
I personally thought the Mississippi just didn't seem long enough.
Yeah.
So well, it's not long enough.
Yeah, the Mississippi just doesn't go through the Dakotas either. And I've always wanted to have a favorite Dakota, so we're trying to work out which we like the most.
Oh, no, come on. There is only one Dakota. I'm in it. You're not.
Oh, interesting.
I'm in North Dakota. You're in South Dakota at the moment.
We can't stick our colors to the mast just yet.
Yeah.
We are still under making our judgments.
A very good nautical metaphor, by the way, sticking your colors to the mast. So you've been at this for about 55 days. So you plan this for some time. You fly to Denver, Colorado. It's nowhere near the Missouri River. And then you hitchhiked from Denver to Bozeman?
That's right. Denver is the closest place you can fly to from England in one flight. And it's probably 600 or 800 miles away from Three Forks, something like that.
Yeah. So how long did you plan this before you got on that flight?
Well, it's sort of difficult to say. In some ways, sort of 15 years since Mikey's friend came up with the idea. And in some ways, a bit before we had to get a visa.
Sort of half a year or so.
Yeah.
We were originally planning on rafting down,
Yeah.
inspired by Huckleberry Finn.
Wow.
And we actually, in a burst of enthusiasm, made a raft, which was incredibly difficult.
In England, not in America.
Not in America. We made a sort of test one to see if we could do it. And
you built a raft in England.
In a little pond in England, and it just about stayed afloat below the surface. But if you prodded it with your toe, it would go under. So it was incredibly heavy too. So we thought, well, there's a lot of dams. Anyway, we gave up on the raft idea. I'm still kind of attached to it, and I wouldn't mind swapping to a raft on the Mississippi. But Nat's the captain, and she says no to the raft.
Nat, you are the captain.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
So just names are going to be a little tricky for our listeners. Mikey is the man in this adventure, and Nat is the woman in this adventure. All right, you build this stupid raft, and it doesn't really work. If it had worked, would you have taken it apart and numbered the logs and put it on an airplane, or were you going to build something in Montana?
No, it was very much a test raft. It was very small. It was very small, and it was built with wood that was like very much to like its aperture wasn't big enough. We was just seeing if we could do it, and it turned out we couldn't.
And if you know anything about the sort of trees in Montana, which we didn't obviously, then you might find this is a less sort of stupid part of the plan. But I had in my mind that we'd turn up somewhere near Three Forks. Everyone would own a forest, and one of those people would say, "Ha, that's a great idea. Let me get my chainsaw. We'll chop down some logs, and you'll have a raft." But there's basically no trees in the whole state, as far as I can tell, and certainly no one who was going to make us a raft.
So you're in Denver, and you decide to hitchhike to Montana. That's the Jack Kerouac phase of your journey. How hard was that? What adventures did you have just getting into the Three Forks area?
I would say the hardest part was getting out of the airport, because people are just really not used to people being there. Also, we were exhausted. I certainly was exhausted. It was very late for us because we had been in UK time, and we were just sort of standing in this sort of quite grim airport car park, putting our hands out.
Well, they're all grim, by the way. I mean, have you been to Heathrow lately? I mean, there are very few good car parks at airports.
Yeah. And one of the good things about airport car parks is that you get to leave them really fast. And we didn't. We didn't leave it for about, 2 hours or something.
We took a good long soak in the Denver airport car park.
Yeah.
Grim.
It took us 3 days and quite a lot of hitches.
But fundamentally, it's a really good idea, hitchhiking in America. Your listeners might potentially think that it's a reckless, chaotic, stupid idea, but you meet lots of nice people. The only people who stop for you are nice. They're lovely, in fact. And then if they discover that you're visiting, then they are hospitable as well, because that's the American way, and go out of their way. I mean, basically everyone who drove us anywhere drove some way out of their way for us, which you probably aren't surprised by that. But to me, that's wonderful. Unexpected.
It was great. And some of those people are following our blog, which is nice. And sometimes they send us a comment. So they were sort of the first people to help us out.
As long as we're on that subject, give us the website blog so people, if they wish to, can follow along now.
Oh yeah, it's Nat and Mikey, N-A-T, and Mikey, N-I-K-E-Y, .wordpress.com. It's a website.
Nat, N-A-T, and A-N-D, Mikey, M-I-K-E-Y, all lowercase, I assume, at WordPress.com. All right. Nat, you are an English teacher, I think.
That's
And
true.
Mikey, you do computer work, computer science?
Computer science teacher, yeah, that's right.
And so if you ever get settled somewhere, I'll send you a copy of On the Road so that you can overcome these prejudices about that.
Don't worry, we both read On the Road, but
We read it in Paris.
our main preparation for this trip was reading riverboat trip books. So we read Huckleberry Finn and
Heart of Darkness.
Heart of Darkness.
Not very heartening.
And we watched
Now?
Apocalypse Now and Deliverance.
Yeah.
Great.
Anyway, we got to get to the river here. So you chose Three Forks. That's where the Missouri River technically is said to begin. So there's a day where you have to throw all your stuff in the boat and get on that water.
Yeah. Oh, and it was great. Today we really were so excited, and we met people instantly who were much more experienced than us, and they helped us out, and they said, we're floating. Well, this guy called Sean said, I'm floating it down for 2 days, and this is my dad, and he'll help you port it around the first dam, and you can come and have dinner with us. And that's what he did.
And he saw us again on the second day, all washed up on the shore because we capsized day 2.
Day 2, you capsized the canoe.
Capsized day 2. Yeah, we haven't capsized since then yet. Day 2, we flipped it over. All our stuff went everywhere because we hadn't tied it down properly.
We thought we were doing so well day 1.
Yeah, it was so easy. We were sort of thinking, we're never going to tip this, are we? Anyway, we did. And he saw us by the side with all our stuff laid out on the rocks, drying out. And he felt sorry for us. He replaced my flip-flops, which have been claimed by the Missouri.
So you get on at Three Forks. I know exactly where you would have had to get on the river, and day 2 you turn over. How much was lost that couldn't be replaced? Anything?
No, I don't think anything. We lost some flip-flops, which Mikey instantly got back. Lots of our books got moldy, but we read them anyway.
Yeah.
And
we basically salvaged everything, I think.
yeah, one of our water cubes floated down very quickly, but someone rescued it for us. And I think that was it.
Yeah, everything else just got wet, so it was okay.
Yeah.
And then you learned how to tie things down in the canoe and to pack better and so on.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a pride check. We got too prideful too quickly.
Yeah, hubris nearly did you in, but nobody came close to drowning. The river is not very deep there or wide. So that's 53 days ago. Now you have been up through the gates of the mountains near Helena. You have been to Great Falls, where there are 5 cataracts that you had to portage around. You have floated down through the White Cliffs section of the Missouri, arguably the most beautiful of all the stretches. Eventually wind up at James Kipp Recreation Area, and that's where the slackwater begins. So for those who don't know, there are 6 giant main stem dams on the Missouri between eastern Montana and the bottom of South Dakota. You're in the middle of the third of those. It's Fort Peck, Garrison, and then Oahe. And this is not for the faint of heart. These giant lakes have wave action. They have wind currents. You have to be really careful. How was it going across that slackwater?
Well, we're at the moment hiding out from a very windy day, which we've had to do maybe 2 or 3 times. But actually,
when it's hard, hide. That's our motto.
Yeah, exactly. We're wimps.
And then at the moment we're hiding in a place with air conditioning and Wi-Fi and stuff. So that's actually fine.
Yeah, it's been very beautiful. Most of the time, we've been incredibly lucky with.
No, but no one
weather.
wants to hear about us having a nice time.
Oh yeah.
It's all supposed to be an ordeal and craziness. And
The hardest bit of all of them was the deltas just before the the slackwater, where because I guess we're late in the season. The rivers
levels are down.
Yeah.
Right, and on the way in, this is something we didn't know, but maybe everyone else does. The mud is not just muddy, but you also can't step out of your boat and onto the mud. You'll sink. You're really pretty isolated unless you can get through. And we got stuck pretty badly in the mud. We got stuck in it. We went back out. We exhausted ourselves, really wrenching our way through, and retreated back to where we'd started.
Oh my!
2 entire days we spent going down into the mud, back out, back to where
Yeah.
we started, and that was a morale low point, I would say.
It was like, if you can imagine, it was like like the worst corn maze, like a corn maze, but instead of corn, it's just quicksand.
Wow. We need to take a break here. I'm talking to Nat Odgers and Mikey Lear from Britain, who are undertaking this immense journey. They are about a fourth of the way to your ostensible destination in New Orleans. When we come back, I want to ask you about daily life on an excursion of this sort. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to this special edition of Listening to America. I'm talking to Mikey Lear and Nat Odgers, who are British and are floating from Three Forks, Montana to the mouth of the great Mississippi River. They overcame an early foolish notion of doing it on a raft, and now they're doing it in a really high-tech canoe. And they overturned once early on, but since then it's been pretty good. Just as to slackwater, the Missouri carries an immense silt load, and every time it reaches a dam, it has to drop all that silt. And the water that comes out of the dam is clear and cold, which is not ecologically very good for the Missouri River Basin, but that's how it works. And you found some mud flats at the back of Lake Sakakawea and the back of Fort Peck Reservoir. So now you've come through Bismarck, where I live, and just below Bismarck, you start to enter Lake Oahe. You've made your way down across the North Dakota-South Dakota border, and now you're a few dozen miles north of Pierre, where Oahe Dam is, and then you'll portage around that, and then there will be 3 more dams before you are at Sioux City and out of that set of impediments. What's a day like to you? So you sleep in a tent?
Generally, yeah. Today we're in a motel, but almost always we're sleeping in a tent. I think we keep meeting people who have like maybe met one or two paddlers before, and they help us in the evening, and then sometimes they come back and they go, "Oh, the other guy left at first light. I was really surprised to find you here." We're not really early risers.
You're British. I mean, I lived in Oxford. People, it's a different day in that world.
We sort of see first light and we think, "Oh, perfect. We've still got quite a few hours to sleep." We get up. We have tea.
Oatmeal.
We have oatmeal, which we call porridge. We flavour that with hot chocolate. Actually, to be honest, Mikey does that. Mikey wakes up, gets tea, and I eat it in the tent, usually still in my sleeping bag. And then we pack up. We sort of, get going, and then we paddle. Sometimes we paddle through for about 8 hours. Sometimes we eat cliff bars, or sort of boiled eggs. And sometimes we go and have a leisurely lunch on the shore, and usually have Cliff Bars and boiled eggs.
All right, she's really made that sound quite sexy. It's actually quite boring.
Yeah.
It didn't sound sexy to me at all, except that maybe being served in your sleeping bag. So, all right. So you're on the water, and are there long periods of silence? Do you talk the whole time? How's your day?
There are periods of silence, definitely.
I've noticed recently that we talk a lot more when it's easy, and if it's not hot, if the current's with us, and if we've had enough sleep and enough food, we'll chat away. And then when the wind comes up, or the sun's kind of beating down on us, or something else is bothering us, then we'll either just grimly sit out in silence, or we've been listening to audiobooks as well.
Yeah.
Both thematic audiobooks. What have we?
We listened to Typhoon by Joseph Conrad.
Yeah.
Again, a heartening book.
We're now working our way through the whole of Harry Potter, which is a good 50 hours or something of Stephen Fry melodiously talking us through the downs and stuff.
Is this out loud, or do you have earphones, or is it only when you're on shore? When do you?
No, on a speaker.
We've got a speaker.
In the boat.
In the boat. And that's one of the good things I think about having a canoe, is that you can sort of more share things like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing we're doing together.
Yeah. But we like reading to each other. That's pretty standard before. So
So how often do you get into a town, village, farmhouse, or a ranch? How often do you get? So I'm sure the kindness of strangers can even be a bit oppressive. It has been for me on some of my journeys. But How often do you take a break?
Take a break. We very rarely have scheduled breaks. We heard that because we haven't planned it. Our plan is to go down the river. We don't really know any places on the river or anywhere we should be stopping. So,
and we can't really plan timings anyway because it's so weather dependent and dependent on injuries or exhaustion levels or anything else.
Yeah.
Whether we get lost in a delta.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can plan about 1 or 2 days ahead, but we have stopped. Yeah, I would say in general, when we meet strangers, it's pretty nice. We're not being inundated with strangers. We went for 3 days without seeing anyone who we could reasonably sort of shout a message. We saw one person on a quad bike on the other side of the river during that 3 days of traveling. That was just after Fort Peck, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In general, we're pretty isolated, and meeting people is lovely. We quite like.
Otherwise, it's just me and Mikey hanging out.
Yeah, we're okay.
You kind of knew that coming in, right? You know that.
And we like each other, actually.
Still like each other.
We still like each other.
That's one of the good things that we discovered.
I think that's one of those things that not everyone knows, that they can spend 55 days with their partner, where you're literally spending almost all the time, like bar some personal private moments. You are literally with them all the time, and it's been fine.
It's been absolutely.
Yeah, you heard her voice rise there a little. So have you? I mean, there have to be moments where you're just not getting along really well, but you've weathered those.
Yeah, we haven't had that many of those. There are definitely times when one of us is grumpy because it's too cold or too hot, or we haven't eaten enough, or we've eaten too much.
Rarely, because we've eaten too much. We've become thin.
Yeah,
it's mostly not enough.
Mikey refuses to acknowledge that I've got incredible muscles. But I do.
Well, I guess I should probably take this opportunity to publicly say you have incredible muscle.
Thank you.
And that is now a part of the record. We'll get a transcript. All right. So, and your food supply is what you buy things in shops or wherever you have a chance, but you're not doing like freeze-dried meals. You're doing real food.
Yeah, we
real-ish food, like oats and rice every day.
Yeah, we have the same food because we don't have a cooler, so we just have dry food.
A fun feature of South Dakota, or specifically the place we are right now, is they said, well, I've never been anywhere like this, where they said to us, it's 35 miles to the nearest grocery store. Yeah, that might seem completely normal to you, but if you're where we live and you go 35 miles in any direction, you're in the sea pretty much.
I love it, yeah.
Past hundreds of grocery stores. So the idea that you'd have to just drive 40 minutes or, well, wait a minute, an hour or something just to get some apples, that's mad.
So yeah,
when we get to a Walmart, we stick as much rice and stuff as we can in our boat every week or so.
So now you are in South Dakota, and you will go a few weeks. You'll get to St. Louis at some point. When do you expect more or less to be at the mouth of the Missouri?
I think that we'll probably be there. I'm going to say it now, the 5th of November.
Oh, wow. Guy Fawkes Day in St. Louis. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Guy Fawkes, they celebrate that here, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Every year, yeah.
Big deal.
That's a big deal here. Yeah, so I think the 5th of November, only because we started on the 5th of August, and it's 3 months. So sometime in hopefully the first half of November.
And I think you're probably aware that we have winter here in America. And
yeah.
So
not as early as November, surely.
It depends. Has it frozen? Has it frozen in any of your campsites?
No, we've been hot all the time. I know that it dipped quite a lot in the week before we got to Oahe. Then there were tornadoes and stuff. It was a big deal. But we've basically been warm the entire time.
Yeah. So aside from being 35 miles from the nearest pretty weak grocery store, what else could you not have anticipated that's really struck you in this journey so far?
I think the isolation, the level of isolation is definitely very unusual for us. Like we on the far shore of Oahe, we've gone past maybe 60 miles without seeing a single
building, let alone
building,
person.
Sign of humanity on the far shore, and very little on the near shore. That how many lakes there were? I mean, we could have just Googled that, couldn't we? But we didn't.
Yeah, how much actual paddling we had to do rather than just sort of sitting back and letting the river do it.
Yeah, when people were saying, "Oh, that sounds hard," I was saying, "No, come on, it's all downhill. You get on the top of the river, tuck up into a ball, and you'll float until you're at the bottom." But actually, there's quite a lot of work you have to do, so I didn't see that coming.
All right. So, and so the isolation, I mean, this is a vast, it's not wilderness, but it's a vast and open place in the trajectory you've been on so far. It does get more densely populated now. Almost every day now, you'll see more people, more villages. Then you'll come to Chamberlain, South Dakota, and then you'll come to Sioux City, Iowa, and then you'll really down into the Omaha zone, and it gets more domesticated, let's put it. Does the stark beauty of the Northern Plains, does it delight you? Does it scare you? I mean, it's pretty stark.
It's intimidating. It's definitely intimidating. I think but what I think one thing is that we're on the river. We're just following a line, If I think when we were driving through Wyoming, we were looking around and we were just like, what have we done? I suddenly was like, where is this? Where are the people? That felt very intimidating. But it sort of feels like, we're on a road and we know where we need to go next. We're not lost. The river doesn't let us get lost, apart from obviously at the Delta where we were lost.
Yeah, you get up in the morning, you have your tea, you have your porridge, you get on the river, maybe you stop for lunch, maybe you go 8 hours. Sometime around 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, you're probably thinking we need to find a place to camp, preferably under cottonwoods where it's dry and so on. And you look around and then you choose a site, right?
Yeah. We didn't actually know about I suppose we sort of knew about the cottonwood, the fact that it would be dry, but
no, I would say cottonwoods mean mosquitoes. That would be my feeling. To be not really. We're still working out what makes a good campsite.
Yeah, we really like shale, but we're not totally sure if it's called shale here. It's sort of loads of almost clayish, sort of round pebble things.
Yeah, that we call that's called clinker or scoria, but it's a shale-like thing, and the river polishes it and makes it rounded and so on. And those gravel bars are a nice place to sit or camp.
Yeah, and we sort of go till we're exhausted. Sometimes we find good places, sometimes we don't. And we say, this is a marginal place. Yeah. If it's a really unpleasant place to be.
We've stayed in some marginal places. That's definitely true.
Well, that comes with the territory, right? I mean, that's just going to happen.
Beauty is also a consideration. If we can travel a little way up a hill with all our stuff, it's a faff, but it sometimes gives you a nice view of the lake. And we have stayed in some incredibly beautiful places, and that is good. That's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Are you keeping journals?
No, other than the blog. The blog is our sort of journal.
Mm-hmm. And how many people are following? Do you have any idea?
I think we have something like 50 or 60 followers.
Definitely your parents.
Yeah, whether they're actually...
Not definitely your siblings.
Yeah, my siblings, I think, gave up on the first day.
Yeah, very slack.
Yeah, very, very slack.
Yeah, I've got a few friends and family and a few people we've met along the way. This sort of relates to this something you asked earlier, which is I thought of a better answer, which is what are the things you weren't expecting,
right?
And this kind of ties in with that. Which one of the things which I found entirely surprising is this sort of community called based around a Facebook group called the Missouri River Paddlers, for people who are interested in paddling the whole Missouri. But then there seems to be loads of people who are really invested in anyone who's doing it.
And they haven't necessarily done it themselves.
They haven't necessarily done it themselves. They might have done it once and they're kind of reliving it through other people's journeys, or they're just people who live by the river and have met one or two of them, or they've helped out. We met one of these guys who had done it himself. We met him just by chance. We pulled into a campsite and he was there, and he was overjoyed. He was like, "You guys are traveling doing the whole thing. You're through paddlers." We learned the phrase "through paddlers." Yeah, we're through paddlers.
They're the aristocrats of the paddling community.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Every so often he posts on this Facebook group about our journey update, just a map showing where we've got to, and a bunch of strangers, put little comments saying, "Oh, great, good work, go Mikey and Nat," and like it and stuff. And then also on top of the fact that they're interested in us, which is baffling, a lot of them are really prepared to help us a huge amount. But some of them run marinas or
RV parks,
right?
Taking us in and given us food and looked after us, helped us with portaging. There's this whole list of numbers, and we feel like we're absolutely scamming them because we're just on a stupid holiday, and they're helping us out for no reason at all. And
they're doing it because part of them envies what you're doing, the freedom of it, the adventure, everyone feels like the tug of that, like, wow, what would it be like to really commit yourself to running this entire river? You met Norm Miller.
He was one of he's sort of the archetype. He's sort of the daddy of the river paddler community.
He chased us down, actually.
Yeah.
He sort of tracked us. I think he was trying to get in touch with us during a time when we didn't have any signal. And
he was trying to warn us against some rapids that we accidentally went down, and we weren't meant to go down. And he sent us an email saying, "Big Eddie will kill you."
Where's that? Where's the Big Eddie?
That's just after
the last Great Falls Dam.
So I met him at Eagle Camp. So you were at Eagle Camp in the White Cliffs, and I didn't know him, and he did the same to me because I run these annual trips and so on. He came up and we got to know each other. So I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago for his journey. He went on the Mackenzie River all the way to the Arctic one year, and then he followed Lewis and Clark in 2004. And so he asked me, and I said, "Well, yeah, I met these idiots, that they're doing this. They're British. They know nothing. They don't even know who Lewis and Clark are, really. They're just like, I don't even get it." And he said, "Oh yeah, I know them. I helped them." And it was so cool that he and I are new friends, but you somehow are pivotal to it. And it's pretty amazing. And he's certainly invested in your success, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he basically found us so he could give us a book which he refers to as the Bible, which is actually not a Bible, but it's a guide to paddling the Missouri.
Yeah.
What's the book?
It's called
Paddling the Missouri, The Complete Paddler.
The Complete Paddler.
By Mon Miller.
Yeah, and
so it's his book. All right.
No, not him.
It's not.
Different Miller.
It's a different Miller, but it basically gives you loads of maps and also the account of this guy's journey, and it's really helpful. You can go, "Oh, well, I now know I've done 1,000 river miles," which is different from 1,000 miles by the crow flies. So you actually can track your journey, and Norm popped up in Fort Benton and was like, "Here you go," pressed it into our hands and also some stickers which we put on our boat, and he's pretty amazing, and he's got an amazing website as well.
Yeah, and so he is very representative of that whole community. All of them very desperate to help out, and all of them incredibly helpful whenever they've helped us. Yeah.
We need to take another break. Fascinating conversation of two British adventurers, Nat Odgers and Mikey Lear, who are now north of Pierre, South Dakota, on their way to New Orleans. And so when we come back, I want to ask you about spiritual aspects of a journey like this. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to this special edition of Listening to America. I'm talking with Nat Odgers and Mikey Lear from Brighton in England, who are in the U.S., floating from Three Forks, Montana, at least as far as the mouth of the Missouri at St. Louis, and arguably, almost certainly all the way down. So fingers crossed, as you say, and fall is here. So I was on a second trip on the Missouri right after I met you, and our tents had a lime of frost on them. So I'm surprised it hasn't gone that way yet for you. It soon will, and then of course there won't be any mosquitoes or flies or anything else. The leaves will be turning. I don't know if they're turning yet on the cottonwoods, but they become astonishingly beautiful.
Yeah, they're turning, and we both find them beautiful and also worrying.
Yes.
Obviously gorgeous, but there's also a slight panic that we feel every time we admire them.
Because winter's coming, you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, an element of the traffic light: green for go, yellow for warning, and red for what are you doing?
So Lewis and Clark have encountered more than 50 different indigenous groups, all the way out and all the way back. Have you met any Native Americans in your journey?
No, and we would like to.
I don't think it's necessarily obvious. I suppose Native Americans often look like, what's the opposite of a Native American? Invasive Americans.
Occupying Americans. Well, yeah. You're right in the heart of it. South Dakota is the heart of what we call Indian country. You're in Lakota land. When you get to Pierre, you'll be exactly where there was a confrontation between Lewis and Clark and the Teton Lakota back in late September of 1804. And there are Lakota, Dakota, Sioux natives all up and down the river until you get to Sioux City. And so if you really wanted to meet some natives, that would be very easy to do. If you when you get to Pierre, just ask around and say that you would really like to talk with the indigenous sovereigns, and somebody will come and meet you. It's really fascinating. When they retraced Lewis and Clark back in 2004 during the bicentennial, they had a keelboat and two pirogues, and they were working their way up, and they actually had a confrontation with the Lakota in the exact same spot. And the Lakota said, "Don't you white people ever learn? You came through trespassing in 1804, and now you're trespassing again in 2004. Don't you know you need permission to do what you're doing?" And it turned out to be really a fascinating cultural encounter. You're not going to have that problem going downriver and just two of you, but I think it would be really something if you could get some indigenous input in a conversation somewhere along the way. And once you get out of South Dakota, it'll become much harder, because in Nebraska and Iowa, the natives were basically banished west.
Okay, well, I think that is something that we have been thinking about.
Yeah, I think it would be not just something valuable, but a bit of a shame if we didn't manage.
Exactly. And so are you learning new things about each other because you've kind of created this extreme?
That was the second part of the conversation we were having. We might not have learned huge amounts of insights about ourselves or about the meaning of life or God's soul or anything like that. But it's definitely put our relationship into a different kind of
lens.
Yeah, lens. Or a
magnifying lens.
But anyway, yeah, basically it's doing something tough together is been good for us, and then also seeing lots of beauty together. That's always nice. And meeting little nice people together. It's all been good. It's all been good for us, I think.
And how many times, if any, have you thought, "Oh, the heck with it, let's just give up"? I mean, this is ridiculous. We've gotten a flavor of this. We've done it. No one can say we didn't do something heroic here. Let's just pack it in, get rid of the canoe, fly home, call it a day.
How many times a day? No, I don't think either of us have thought that at all.
I actually don't. Yeah, and I was surprised when you asked that question, because I thought we shouldn't be thinking that all the time. But no, I don't think any.
I think fundamentally it's less hard than it's actually reasonably easy what we're doing. We haven't been at a rock bottom. The worst it's been has been in those deltas, which was hard, but we kind of still knew that it was just a rough day and that we'd get over it. So I can see it happening potentially in the future if we have a week or two of frozen weather to get through where everything stays wet the whole time. Ugh. But
I think also,
I reckon we're going to make it.
Yeah, I think also one thing that is absolutely necessary to our journey is the fact that we have a blog, and obviously having a great time is good because you're having a great time, woohoo! But having a terrible time is perfect for the blog. No one wants to hear that you're, oh, another great day. Look at my beautiful tan. Everyone wants to hear that you're miserable. My family certainly do.
Yeah.
And Mikey's family also are looking forward to, tales of woe.
Yeah.
Why? Why do they want you to suffer so much?
Because it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny when other people are in pain.
It's funny. Yeah, they think we're morons for doing it, and they like being proved right. And that is very much a dynamic in both of our families. And if they were doing something, and I hope this doesn't come across as cruel, but if they went on holiday, I would be also hoping they would be having a miserable time.
Well, you're certainly entitled to it if they're beating up on the two of you. So you mentioned injury before. Have you either been injured so far?
Not really. I cut my hand while testing the sharpness of a knife. I don't think that can be really put down to the Missouri River.
That may be in the moron category. It's a knife, right?
I don't know. We've been fine, haven't we? We got that point after that Norm was worrying us about Big Eddie will kill you. We got in the river there a bit too early, and we waded through the sort of mild rapids, pulling the canoe along, and we both got bashed around a lot, and we both ended up feeling like, ow, I want to stop. But you couldn't really call it a proper injury, just a little bit of light bleeding and bruising, I think.
Yeah, and it made us look like pirates.
Yeah, made us look like pirates.
And you can bathe in the river, of course. It's not the cleanest water in the world, but it does take the sweat off, and it does the trick. I mean, and you soon get used to it.
I'm at home. I'm a pond swimmer, so I really like swimming in ponds. So if anything, I would say the Missouri doesn't have quite enough dirt and duck poo. Ideally, it would be about 10 degrees colder, and there'd be loads more duck poo, and then I'd feel right at home.
Well, you're going to get 10 degrees colder and way sooner than you think. All right, so you're still in it for the duration. You're still in it to go to New Orleans.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, unless I think at the moment we're feeling like if there's like if one of us breaks a leg or two legs, especially if it's
we don't need our legs that much.
Yeah, if one of us breaks a bicep, then that might curtail our trip. But hopefully we're in it for the long haul. We're enjoying it. Basically, we're enjoying it. We're having fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So when you reach the mouth of the Missouri at St. Charles, you're going to suddenly be in one of the world's great rivers, the Mississippi. And when Lewis and Clark were coming the other way in May of 1804, they'd wintered in the Illinois country on the eastern side. And when they turned their boats up into the Missouri, almost every one of the men said, "Oh my God, we are doomed." Of course, they were going against the Missouri, but you're going with it. But the Mississippi is a gigantic river, and it's going to be a very different experience. And I can't wait. That is truly your Huck Finn portion of this journey, and there's nothing quite like it. At some point, you probably get to New Orleans. Then what happens? What happens in New Orleans?
I think in New Orleans we
sell a boat.
We sell Winona, and have a little cry, or potentially say good riddance. Depends how.
Or both.
Yeah, probably both. And then we might have a road trip. We've got the year, but we'll probably try and get home to Britain by about April.
We're trying not to make too many plans before we get there, because we might be incredibly exhausted and just want to go home. Be nice to go and visit a few friends. We got some friends in California, that kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe hitchhike to California.
So you're going to spend Christmas in America?
Yeah. This is my first Christmas away from my family. But I'm excited. I hope I get a massive burger.
I think undoubtedly you will have a chance for a massive burger in the United States. And then you go home at some point in April. Then what? You resume your lives, or Meriwether Lewis had terrible reentry issues. He just couldn't resume a normal life. He had seen too much. I have a friend in Oregon who said to me when the bicentennial began, I said, "What is it about Meriwether Lewis?" And he said, "How far can you go out and still come back?"
Ooh, I hope you can come back.
You're the Lewis character. I'm more of a Clark guy.
Yeah, Mikey will.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Yeah.
I hope so. I hope that we haven't gone too far out of the orbit. I think fundamentally.
Was it you who was telling us that there's 4 stages of wilderness survival?
Yes.
Well, the first, because we were discussing that afterwards. You said the first stage is thinking, "Oh, I just want a Big Mac." The second stage is, "This is kind of okay," and the third stage is,
I could do this. The third stage is kind of, I could do this indefinitely. I will go home, but I could do this indefinitely. And then the fourth stage is like, I don't want to go home. This is my real self is here, but I found my real life somewhere in Nebraska or Iowa, and I'll go back because of course you have to go back, but I'm leaving something really fundamental to my being and my happiness out there.
and we were thinking probably that maybe we won't get to the fourth stage.
Yeah.
And we'll go from the second stage sort of back to the first.
Yeah.
Just after a while.
It'll be more like a sort of circle, probably, including the first 3 stages. And we sort of end up looping around all of them. I hope that we can re-enter society.
That hasn't been a big worry for us, has it? That we go completely feral and only be able to paddle for the rest of our lives.
Now it's the Zambezi. Now,
exactly.
We could paddle home, and that's not.
Yeah, we could paddle home.
It's technically possible, probably. Is it? I don't know if that's true.
So you go back to teaching, Nat?
Yeah, I would probably go back to teaching. I sort of think it's good to have a sort of, I don't know how you would describe it, but a hinterland when you're teaching, because there are times when, I'm teaching and every single kid in the class is really bored. And I'm also really bored. And together we're looking at the clock thinking, when does this end? It's good to think this is not my whole being. I have other strands. And also sometimes I feel like sometimes you can sort of give a little bit more to the kids, a bit more like, listen, I'm just your teacher. You know me, but I did this thing, which some people would think that's mad or that's impossible to do. But I'm just your teacher. And if I can do it, you can totally do it. You can, move out of this tiny town that your parents live in, your grandparents live in, and you can go and have an adventure if you want.
You wouldn't necessarily recommend that they do specifically the trip we're doing.
No, I wouldn't necessarily say
you can make a success of your lives by boating down the Missouri, Mississippi.
But you can. There are other things that you can do. You don't just have to be someone who stays in the same place your whole life.
You've already been cut.
Yeah.
How about thunderstorms? Have you had a couple of beautiful thunderstorms?
We had 2 in 2 nights, and they felt like they were just above us, and they were
beautiful.
Were you scared?
Yeah, we were scared.
I think we were sort of in the tent. They weren't. We have seen some pretty incredible ones, haven't we? With the lightning cracking like from side to side in like every second.
And when
you don't get a huge amount of lightning every second storms where we're from.
No, in England, I almost never had a storm of that sort. A little bit of thunder, tiny bit now and then.
Yeah, and you hear it and you think, well, that's over. But that was intense.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really different about the UK and America is you can see a thunderstorm from far off and then they come at you. Whereas in the UK, the sky is much smaller and you're either in the rain or you're not in the rain. And you're almost always in the rain. That was a totally new experience. When we were hitchhiking and we got to Cheyenne, just outside of Cheyenne, we saw this massive thunderstorm way off and we were hitchhiking. We had our thumbs out and we were saying, this is a big storm. And it was slowly getting closer and closer to us. And then we hid in a gas station. And then there was a tornado. And we were like, we're not in Kansas anymore. Or even in Britain.
When the storm comes in, you can see it for an hour and a half, and it's slowly moving, and then it's right on top of you, and then you count the seconds between the flash and the thunder, and it's 0, and you're pretty sure you're going to die. That's a great feeling because you're not going to die, and it is going to pass, and it's like nowhere else can you get this. This is a very typical American West Great Plains phenomenon, and I'm glad you've had a couple of them. What have you not liked about America? Anything? We can take it.
I don't know. Mikey has been here before and hitchhiked around a lot of places in America before. And so he was saying, oh, Americans are all lovely and you're going to meet loads and loads of lovely Americans. And I, because, you hear a lot about America in British news because it's so important. I was sort of thinking, oh, we'll see how it is. It seems like a very divided country. It seems also a bit like in some ways, a frightening country. It's so much bigger. It has, things are happening here. But Mikey was right. People tell us all the time that, the country is really divided. And I think that does seem to be true. We've met people from both sides of the political party, but they're incredibly united in kindness to us.
In loads of things. I would really agree with that. I would say, that's the sad bit about America at the moment is everyone's sad about the division, the political division, and how wide it has become and how little discourse there is. But I think what no one really gets is that they're just like you. If you're American listening to this and you're a Republican, you're just like a Democrat, and vice versa. You're just like each other. You're nice. You're welcome. You're open. You're hospitable. You're kind, you love your families, you're patriotic, and you are you can't really tell the difference unless you see the bumper sticker which says MAGA or whatever the other thing is. And then when you see that, suddenly it's a big fight. I think that's sad. And no one's saying, maybe there's a bit of both. We don't see that much.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a bit left, a bit right. And I haven't met anyone who's prepared to say that.
So, yeah, maybe the sort of the sadness of a divided country when us random outsiders can see how much you've got here, how much spirit and
what an astonishingly beautiful country too. You've been through some of the most beautiful landscapes in the world, and they're largely uninhabited into the 21st century. I mean, you think of the population density even in Scotland compared to Montana is just staggering. And so you've gotten to see something that doesn't really exist much in the world anymore. And so you've been in the heart of it. And so, wow, congratulations.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It feels we've, I don't know, horizons have expanded maybe.
They have literally expanded, yes. This has been delightful. I so wish you well. I'm so glad that you reached back out to me, and I hope we have at least 2 more conversations. So interesting to see that you're persevering and having such a great and extraordinary adventure. To all of our listeners, we'll keep following this story, and we'll see you all next week for another important edition of Listening to America.